I'm Jim from Come Play With Us, and today I'm going to bring you a partial playthrough of Tainted Grail, Kings of Ruin. This is a story-based game, and I'll be playing Chapter 1 of the game, so there will be spoilers. There's no way to play this without spoilers. So if you don't want anything from the game being spoiled, then don't watch this video. But I'll only be spoiling part of the first chapter. I'm not going to play through the whole thing, but just enough to give you a taste of how the game works. So I'm at starting setup here. So I've picked Osbert as my character. He's got a special ability, handcraft. For 2 actions, you can gain one of the following consumable items: a smoke bomb, a snare, free bomb, or fire bomb, and then shuffle the consumables deck. Once per day I can do that. And then of course, in Tainted Grail, every character also has a defect. And so he's got paranoia. So whenever I rest, if there's a King of Ruin in my location or a connected one, I gain 1 action less. Okay, so that's Osbert. So when you're setting up your player, on the player board there's these little chevrons. I don't know if that's showing up on the camera, but there's little chevrons that show you where to place all the starting cubes. And so starting health here is 5. And then you just put cubes in all the starting spaces. And I've gotten his 2 decks, so you start with 2 decks, one for combat, one for diplomacy. There's 10 cards in each of those decks. And then when you start the campaign, you start on this 101 location. Here's Osbert Mini, so I'll start him on this Shunned Lands starting location. And you do get a map, like partial map of the kingdom, so it kind of gives you an idea where some things might be. And then each character also gets a letter that they start the game with. Most humans in Western Avalon feel cheated by fate. Should the winds blow in a slightly different direction, should the helmsmen stay their course, just bit better, your ancestry would land in the realms of promise, under protection of King Arthur and his round table. Still, out of all the denizens of the West, you have the most reason to feel cheated. When you were born, one look at your unusual proportions was enough for your family to decide you were weird touched. Your mother had to flee the village, cradling you in her arms. To buy you safety, she went as far as one of the coastal towns where you grew up, a pariah, son of dirt-poor refugee, mocked by other children for your small stature and ragged clothes. Eventually, you were so accustomed to others laughing at you that you turned it into a trade, performing small tricks and making travelers smile for a coin. And sometimes it was your trained weasel and only friend, Clyfar, who performed tricks and drew all the attention while you were quietly cutting purses behind the backs of the audience. After your mother passed away, you and Clyfar took your trade to the road. For years, wandering from one farmhold to another, you performed your tricks and skills in gambling, and if both failed you, your uncanny ability to fade into the shadows. But these years weighed heavily on you. Secretly, you dreamed of becoming more than just a butt of crude jokes. Then in one of the backwater 4 maiden towns, you came upon a nobleman addicted to gambling. When you helped him part with everything he owned, he wagered one last thing that made your eyes sparkle: a deed to his house and lands in Venidia. You won, with many witnesses who ensured he would not dispute the outcome. Unfortunately, as you began your preparations to depart to Venidia, dreaming of your new life as a manor lord, everything turned into yet another cruel joke. The last waystone of King's Pass, the crucial hub between various human kingdoms, fell. The lands of the past were covered in weirdness so deep, so no traveler could navigate it. Desperate, you tried to reach Venidia twice through 2 different land routes. You even bought passage on a ship of an insane captain who insisted Selkies would guide him through the fogs. All these attempts failed horribly. With no other choice, you returned to your previous life, made even more miserable by the deed in your pocket that filled your head with dreams of a better life you left unclaimed. This spring, word reached you that the weirdness finally slithered back from the king's path. They say the damaged waystone at the pass is almost within reach. An opportunity like this won't happen again in many years. Prepared to make the largest final gamble of your life, you set foot on the last mountain trail, just like many other travelers, merchants, messengers, and vagabonds. But unlike them, you just want a place to call your own. Okay, so how this is played, there's a help card here that shows you all the things you need to do. So at the start of day, you resolve start of day effects. There's none in play right now. We remove time counters from each card. We flip locations don't have a waystone to their other side. We activate guardians and clear the active events area and reveal and read a new event card. Okay. Since this is the beginning, we're doing chapter 1. So chapter 1 setup here says build your 3 initial encounter decks, blue, green, purple, and we're just using level 1 cards. Then in each deck, find an encounter with your first encounter on the back of the card, shuffle the encounter decks, and place the first encounter card on the top of each deck. And now we're ready to play chapter 1. Then we skip the start of the day as the first action of the game. All characters explore location 101 together as a party. Okay. And then we prepare the event decks. So find all parts of chapter 1 and stack them face down from 7 to 1, and then shuffle the random event deck. Now follow the instructions on the back of this card. Oh, I guess I did that in reverse order. So I got the event deck here, and the random event deck is here. They're coming out with an app for this game that will do all this upkeep and read, and have the story and everything for you, but it's not out yet. So this is the storybook. So it's a pretty thick book. So when you explore a place, you read the story, and then it'll give you some options. So we're starting in the Shunned Lands. If you don't have the hints part 1 status, go to verse 19. I don't have any statuses yet. Otherwise, read on. So once fertile farmland, now a dreary waste, punctuated by wooden carcasses of abandoned windmills. As you watch their frayed blades slice the gray sky to pieces, movement flutters in the corner of your eye. You feel something watching you from between the structures. But that can't be right. Only shadows dwell here, reminding sore-footed travelers of the region's opulent past. So now we have to choose one. We can spend an action to go to the windmills, and then we read verse 3. Or we can spend an action to follow the mysterious shadow, which requires at least one of these turtle statuses. So I do have 1 courage, so that's courage, the turtle. So I do have a courage, so I could do the follow the mysterious shadow, or I can turn back and return to the 4 maidens. So I think I'll follow the mysterious shadow. So I'm going to pay an action. So your action track is here. And so to pay an action, just move your cube down 1. And then I will go to verse 1. If you have the Curious Part 1 status, there's nothing more to find here. Exploration ends, otherwise read on. Catching shadows is a fool's errand. As soon as you move in its direction, the shape struts away and disappears into the surrounding weirdness. To ensure it wasn't just hallucination, you approach the spot where it disappeared. The footprints on the ground are very real and not human. Their shape and irregular gait betray that whoever left them was severely disfigured. A glint of gold in the mud catches your attention as you inspect the footprints. It is a small golden coin from Homelands, bearing the countenance of King Arthur Pendragon. A hole drilled through it with a leather strap revealed the creature was wearing it as a charm. You know of only one group that wears the mementos of the true king as their amulets. But what would they do so close to civilized realms? You fail to find more clues, but you do locate another smaller and more regular set of tracks leading from one of the neglected farm fields to one of the dilapidated windmills. Is someone still living there, sustaining themselves on wild crops? Gain 1 wealth, and the Curious Part 1 status. Exploration ends. So you mark everything with these red cubes, so wealth is here. So that's how you mark 1 wealth. And then I got to mark a status on the status sheet. So here's the status sheet. And so I am marking Curious Part 1, which is here. So I'll just mark an X on Curious Part 1 to show that I've done that. That's basically how this game works. You'll be marking statuses, and that kind of saves your progress through the game. Okay, so that's the end of my exploration, which means I'm back on this tile. And so there are several options here. Um, so I can spend 2 actions to harvest wild crops, and I can gain 1 food. And if I do that, I have to put a time token on here, which means I can only do that once per day. Or I could explore this location some more. I forgot to put a waystone on here, so this actually should be flipped up. So these waystones go in the spots with these circles here, and they basically mark the area that's kind of visible to you. That's not in weirdness. When the waystones go away, you flip the cards over. They turn to weirdness, and then you can take damage for staying in those areas, or insanity. So I think I'll explore again. Exploring is free, so we'll do another explore. And the actions you can do are actually on the back of this card, so maybe I'll review that first. So exploring, you can see here, costs 0. So you can only explore if the location is flipped over like this. That's what this symbol means here. And the location can have a guardian in it, which is basically a monster. You can spend 1 to travel to an adjacent area, or we can spend 2 to activate a waystone. For that, we have to pay some resources to do that. And we can pay for 0 actions. We can challenge a guardian if there was one on the tile. Then, of course, there's location actions, which would cost whatever. Ours, this one, we have the harvest location action. And then we have character's ability and stuff like I have my handcraft here, which I might want to do. Might be good to get an item in play. So yeah, let me spend. I'm gonna do this. I can do it once per turn, so I can gain one of the following consumable items: a smoke bomb, a snare, a firebomb, or a firebomb, and then I have to shuffle the consumable deck. So I'll spend 2 actions to do that. So here's the consumables deck, and so I just find one of those in here. Okay, so let's see what the smoke bomb does. Smoke bomb, during an encounter, you can discard this to escape or avoid without triggering an enemy attack or resolving any conclusion. Okay, that's pretty good. It's a pretty useful item. So that's one option. And firebomb. Okay, here's a firebomb. During combat, I can discard this to gain a cube, which I'll show you how that works later. So the second option I have, or the snare. At the end of the day, I can pay an action to roll a die, discard the card, and then I can gain some food. I think I'm going to take the snare. This is actually pretty useful to have food. Okay, so let's keep that there. Okay, so I got a snare. Okay, so now I think I'll just do some more exploration. So I'll go back to the book. And so I can choose, I'm not going to read this again, but I can choose one of these actions. So I think I'm going to go to the windmills this time. So I'll spend an action to go to the windmills. Which is verse 3. Okay, so if I have Sharp Truth status, I don't have the Songs of Avalon Part 1. I don't have the Negotiator, and there's no time on this location. Footprints of small child weave between the fields and ruins, eventually leading you to an inhabited windmill. Go to verse 9. The family dwelling in the windmill somehow managed to avoid the worst effects of exposure to weirdness. Still, they are malnourished, half-wild, and suspicious. They treat you as if you were just another hallucination, or worse, a weird spawn. Choose one. Attempt to gain their trust. That'll test my diplomatic skills. Or leave. I'm going to attempt to gain their trust. So I got to go to verse 18. Hey, so now I've got to find secret card 199, Windmill Denizens Blue Encounter. It's this card here. So this is going to result in a diplomacy encounter. So I'll set that. So maybe I'll make space here. I'll set that up here. This will go in the starting spot, which there's an S here. So that goes in the starting spot. And how these diplomacy encounters work, is you're basically going to try to get this into the green area here. So there's a green spot here. You're going to try to push this up to the green before the timer runs out. Now, if you played Tainted Grail before, this works mostly the same as it did before, but now there's a timer on these diplomacy encounters. So put that there. The timer starts at 3. Oh my gosh. So in the top of the card, you can see there's a 3 here. And so counter starts at 3 time. Okay, so let's do our first diplomacy. So you do get cheat cards here that go through all the steps of diplomacy. So starting, we're going to draw 3 cards from a diplomacy deck, and then we can redraw. We set the die number as indicated, did that already, and then place the universal marker on the starting slot, which we have done, and then we check the enemy traits. So the trait on this card is you must prove to them you're not just another weird spawn or hallucination. So there's no special trait on this one. Okay, so I'll draw my start. Oh, I guess I should shuffle this up quickly. So I'll draw my 3. Okay, so how these work is you're trying to match these symbols up with the symbols on the sides of the encounter, and then you can try to chain these. So the first card you put down automatically triggers, but to keep chaining things, you have to find these gold trigger symbols here and match those up to a space that you can match them up to. So this one actually will chain with almost anything. And this one will only match up to a chevron in that space. And then usually what those chevrons there will have the symbol associated to one of the attributes. And so you can only activate them if you have a point or 2 in the attributes. So that's how it works. So let's see what we could do. So this one has nothing in here, so I don't get in it. Usually, you could see, so like this card has an up arrow here in the bottom one, and the bottom here has a 1 time, so that means I could move this up 1 just by placing this card, and then we could trigger the effects. I probably want to chain this one because I could chain this one to get an extra one. No, it's not. It's an interesting effect. I can place the top card of my deck at the end of the sequence and resolve it. Okay. This one chains with anything. Oh, but it moves the thing down. I don't want to do that. And I get to draw a card or discard a card from my hand to. Oh, okay. And draw a card or discard a card from your hand to. Okay, so I could discard a card from my hand and get 2. Okay, so that's really interesting. So maybe I'll do that. Because I could go move up 3 on the diplomacy track right away by just playing these 2 cards here. Although, yeah, that's fine. I think I can chain with this, even though it's a 0. You can always chain with that bottom one. Yeah, okay, so what does this one do? This one's a gamble. So this one I'm going to roll a die, and depending on what I roll. So I want to roll 4 or better. If I roll 1 to 3, and when the enemy goes, then the thing is going to go down. Okay, so if this goes below the first spot on this track, I just have to discard the top card of my deck. So that's not too bad because we're at the beginning here. But I do like. Yeah, I think I'm gonna do. I think I'm gonna start with this one here. Okay, so just gonna roll a die here. All right, so I rolled a 5, which is good. So I get to move one up here on the second spot, and I get to draw a card. Perfect. That worked out good. Okay, and I got this one, Flash of Insight. Okay, so this one chains nicely, and then if this card's discarded, I lose a time. Doesn't really give me much, so I'm not going to use that one. This one I can discard a card to get 2. And okay, well I'm going to chain. Okay, so this one. Oh, no, I can't do so. So this one I can't. I could only play if I had some magic. Okay. Yeah. So because the symbols match here, so if I had this symbol doesn't match to anything here, and the blue matches. So if I had a magic here, I could spend a magic and put this card down, but I don't. So this card I can't play down because I have to match that to something like this one here. Yeah, so this one, I could play this one here, which would allow me to place this one. But then I have to discard this one. This one gives me, ugh. So yeah, you know what? I think this one's better just to discard this one. Yeah, so if I go here, okay, so if I had a magic for this one, I could draw a card. This matches up, so I just get to do the effect. So I can either move this back down to 0 and draw a card, which I'm not going to do, or I can discard a card. This card's kind of useless, so I'm going to discard this card and then move myself up 2 on this track. 1, 2, like that. And then I've got this card left, and I could, this one doesn't chain up with this. Okay, so I keep this one in my hand. So that's the end. That's the last card I'm going to play. Okay, so we're done playing. So now we do the enemy response. Okay, so we check the card here, and the enemy response is here. We're going to move this down 1, and then the time ticks down. So it's down to 2. Yeah, so now we're going to end of turn here. So we're going to discard down to 3 cards in hand. I've only got 1 card in my hand. So then I'm going to draw another card, and then we're going to remove all time markers from the character trays. There's none there, so now I just start a new turn. Go back to phase 1. Okay. Okay, so I got these 2 cards here. So unfortunately, this one has a 0. So yeah, I'm going to lose each of those. But I do have these, so I have empathy. So this one could chain here. Yeah, so if I play this one, the top chevron would chain, and then that activates this symbol, which means if I have empathy, I can move up 1 on the track, and if I have spirituality, I can move up on the track. I have both those things, so that would make me move up 2. So that is pretty good. And then the ability on this is on when I play it, if affinity is green, you may gain 2 wealth. If you do move to the starting slot of the affinity track. Ugh, don't want to do that. I guess I could gain money. But I think I just want to do this to help. Yeah, so this doesn't trigger because there's a 0 there, so that I don't get that at all. So I'm doing this. Actually, I don't. You know what? This isn't going to work. I think there's 2. Take a closer look here. Oh, there's 2. I need 2 empathy. I only have 1 empathy, so this is not going to work. So I guess I'll go with this one then, since nothing else is really going to work. So I'm not moving up on the affinity track, and then so now I've got to place the top card of my deck at the end of the sequence and resolve it. So this would go here, and I get to resolve it. Okay, so that one doesn't give me anything here. And ignore, so I get to ignore the enemy response. And it says, after you connect a card to this card, if you've gained at least 2 bonuses, move up 1. But I've not gained any bonuses with that, so it doesn't really do anything. Okay, I'm not going to play this one, so we go back to the enemy response. So this card lets me ignore the enemy response, and then after the enemy response, I discard it. Discard that, so nothing happens there. And that's it. So I'll get another shot at getting that extra bonus there. Right, so beginning of the turn again, I'll draw a new card. Hopefully this one's better. So yeah, this card's not great because I need, oh no, okay, I need 2 caution to match this up, and I do have 2 caution on this card, right? 2, oh no, yeah, 2 caution. So that will match up. Okay, so I don't get anything for that bottom one. I get the 2 caution one here, which gives me 2 moves on that. So 1, 2. And then after I connect a card to this card, if I've gained at least 2 bonuses, which I did, I can move it up another one. So that goes up to the top of the track. Okay, and this ability is if affinity is in the green. Oh yeah, we already read that. Okay, so I'm not. It's not in the green now. It's above the green. I wouldn't have done that anyways. Now, could I play this? I can't play this one because it doesn't have the gold card thing, so I can't chain this card. Okay, so now we go to the enemy phase, and again, we're going to lose 1 on the affinity track here, and then the time is going to tick down to 1. Okay, so that's the end of the turn. I'm going to draw another card. Okay, so we want to move that up at least 1 because it's going to move down, and then the time's going to tick down to 0, which means we'll resolve the conclusion and see where we're on the track, and that will decide, determine what happens. So I want to at least move it up 1. And okay, so if I play this here, then I get these, so I'll be able to move it up 2, which doesn't really matter. I'll move it up. I just need to move it up 1. Okay, that's that's all I can do. So then I'll end the turn. So now it's going to move back down 1 to the green here, and then it's going to lose 1, and now we do the conclusion. Okay. Okay, so let's read the conclusion. I finished in the green. So the conclusion here is I gain 1 food. So I guess they fed me. And then this goes back in the secrets. Okay, so it says here, if the conclusion is green or gray, gain Negotiator Part 1 status and go to verse 10. Okay, so we get the Negotiator Part 1 status here. And then we're going to go to 10. The family invites you to their hideout on the second floor of the windmill. The path leads up a retractable ladder and past thick oaken doors marred with claw marks. In a cramped room above, you learn that all settlers from the area fled soon after the weirdness came. However, these people firmly believe that the king in the east will return and save their land. And so they wait, harvesting wild crops whenever someone lights the nearby waystone. Okay, so if I was playing Elgin and I didn't have the Curious Part 10 status, I could go to verse 12. I'm not. So I go to verse 11. While you're wrestling with your thoughts, the woman keeps talking. You learn the weirdness and ramshackle dwelling is now the least of her worries. Every couple of months, a strange group of men in robes travels down the old path to King's Pass that leads west from the Crooked Sentinel. They were here just a fortnight ago, and ever since this visit, the woman's second daughter, 14-year-old fair-haired Alyssa, blessed with the voice of an angel, has not been seen. New lead. A young girl from the windmills was supposedly taken by a strange-looking band that traveled to the old path west of Crooked Sentinel. Exploration ends. So leads are just kind of things you can follow. You can take notes on those things. It's not an official kind of mission or anything like that, but they are things you can follow on the storyline. So you can write that in your notes. But the young girl from the windmills was taken. And so on the back of your status sheet, they have, kind of places to take notes. Okay, so I've still got technically 3 actions left. But if you take this last action, then you become exhausted and you don't get as many, you only get 4 actions back for the next day. So you probably don't want to become exhausted unless you really have to. So what I think I'll do, there's not much else to do here. I could spend 2 to gain another food, but I do have the snare, so I probably don't need to do that. I think instead what I'll do is I'll travel, so I'll spend an action and travel here. Okay, so this card has an instant effect on it when you get here. So this is the Crooked Sentinel. So if you don't have the Hints Part 2 status, I have to explore this location. Okay, so we'll just do that. Okay, so if you don't have the Hints Part 2 status, go to verse 10, otherwise read on. So we got to go to verse 10. With the dreary, shunned lands behind you, you now draw close to King's Pass. You've already walked this road once in the opposite direction, though the time makes memories into a blur. You know there should be a narrow, winding trail leading up to the pass not far in the east. To the west, land drowns in pure weirdness. You'd rather not take that path, as each step through this ever-shifting mist is a real danger, and spending a night in its coils can cost you your life or sanity. Still, they say that adventurers brave enough to walk beyond the lights of the Waystone sometimes find things that wouldn't be possible otherwise, for better or worse. Okay, tutorial. When you enter a new location, you first resolve any lightning instructions. As soon as you complete them, check all direction keys of your location and attach any cards that match these keys to its sides. However, note that each location card has 2 sides, a clear side and a weirdness covered side. Any locations that have a Waystone model in one of their corners are always placed this side up. Locations that don't are weird side up. So attach the new locations now. So we're going to place location 103, light side up, and then 104 is going to be weird side up, and then we're going to gain the Hints Part 2 status, and our exploration ends. Okay, so like because there's a sentinel here, or a waystone here, that's why these are all lit up. To light this one up, we would need a sentinel there. We can still go here, but it's dangerous to go there, that's all. Okay, so I still got one action left. There's no action in this space. I could travel to 103 here, but the men in robes went that way. I don't know if I want to go that way, but let's see what's. This is the stone chorus. Oh, so we draw in a green encounter if we go here, and then we can hunt here. So yeah, probably good to show you the green encounter. So let's go that way. So let's spend our last action to move here, and then you put 2 time tokens on there. That's what those time symbols are. So we put 2 time tokens on here, and that just basically means this every day you remove time tokens. So this means this will only trigger once every few days. And then we're going to do green encounter. So we've got. Oh, sorry, I should have. Whenever you're done your encounter, you just take your cards and you shuffle them back up into your deck. Okay, so now fighting this rat. This rat has a trait that at the end of the encounter, I remove it from the game. So this is kind of like a training monster. Okay, so we'll put him there. Okay, so now we're going to use our combat deck. And this works very similarly to diplomacy. So there's a combat side of this card. So we're going to draw 3 cards to start, and we can redraw, and then we check the enemy traits, and then we're going to pick a character, and then we're going to do the activation. So draw my 3 cards. Okay, for the combat, you're trying to put red cubes above the card here, and you need as many as there's health, and once you get knocked all its health down, the encounter ends. So he has 5 health, so we want to get 5 red cubes up here, and as soon as we do, the encounter ends. Okay, so so I need turtle. Okay, turtle's good. So it looks like both of these cards, these are the same card. Okay, that's why they're both good. And that one requires, so this one matches that, but I don't have that attribute, so I guess we'll do this one. This one has an effect that during the enemy activation, if I've gained at least 2 of this card's bonuses during the last activation, then I get to prevent 3 damage. Which I don't have any magic, so I'm not going to get. That's not going to happen. I'm only going to get 1 match here on the courage, so that lets me put a red cube down. So I got 1 here, and that's it. And this gets discarded after the enemy activation. So now I don't have. Okay, so now I can chain this card chains with anything. So that's me discard this, and then I can discard up to twice more. That's not so great. And I don't have any aggression, so it's not going to do anything. I don't have magic, so I mean I could use this again, which actually I might as well do that. Because of the symbol here, I can play it. And then I do have that attribute, so put another red cube on there. And ideally I get 3 down, because he's going to do 2 damage to me if I only have 0 to 2. Okay, so that's the end of my turn. So now it's going to be the enemy phase. With the enemy, you just read this little chart here. So it's asking how many cubes are there. I've got 2. So he's going to do 2 damage to me. I don't have any defenses. So I'm going to take 2 damage. And then this gets discarded after the enemy phase. And this gets discarded after the enemy phase. So these are discarded. Now I'll just draw my next card. And we go again. I keep getting these aggression ones. So what this is telling me is like when I need to level up, I should level up aggression because a lot of my cards, my combat cards, are using aggression, and I don't have aggression. Okay, so I guess I'll play this card here. Okay, so this card lets me draw a card if I have courage. I do. So I'll draw a card. I can't put a cube down because I don't have any aggression. So I can place 3 charges on this card. Then after I play a card, if I've gained at least 2 bonuses, pay 1 charge, and gain a cube once per card. So it's got 3 charges on it. Okay. Okay, so this one I can chain, but then I have to discard this, and then I can discard up to twice more. This doesn't really help me at all. And I can't use this card because it doesn't chain up. Ooh, this isn't going well for me at all. Okay, so I'm taking, again, I've only got 2 cubes on him, so I'm taking 2 more damage. I could run away, which I probably should do. But I'm kind of in trouble now because if I do, you take the opportunity damage here, which means I'd have to take another damage, which I can't because I'd be dead. Okay, so I draw another card. I need something good here. None of my cards are chaining at all. Yeah, that's weird that all my cards would chain with attributes that I don't start with. Oh. Okay, so this one doesn't really do much for me, but it lets me draw another card, which might get me something good here. So yeah, this one chains with the snake, which again I don't. So I'm not very good at fighting, so I should probably just not fight. Okay, so I can play that one because I have this card. Okay, and then yeah, again I can't do. I'm dead. There's nothing much I can do. This one would be good if I could gain a bonus out of it. I don't have any magic. Yeah, so I'm dead. Nothing much I could have done there. Okay, I think I'm going to end it there. Since I died, it's probably a good place to end it. But I've showed you pretty much everything about how the game works. I guess we could go through the end of round. What happens at the end of the day? So at the end of the day, we resolve the end of the day effects. There is none, so I could rest. So if I'm exhausted, I gain 4 actions. Otherwise, you can place your action marker back at the top. Now it only goes as high as your health tracker is, so I would only get 4 actions anyways. So that's a case where you might want to exhaust yourself. And then you can recover. So you can pay food once to gain health, 1 action, and lose 1 terror. And then if you're in the weirdness, then you lose 2 health and gain 2 terror. And then at the end of the day, you can pay your experience. I didn't get any experience, but you can pay experience to, kind of get these attributes or improve your dex. And if you're in a location with this symbol, then you can read the visions for that location, which will give you hints about the game. So those are good to read. And then you start to the next day, right? And so at the start of the next day, go back to the top, we would resolve the start of day effects. We would remove the time tokens. So that's these things. So these timers would tick down. And then we flip locations that don't have the waystone, right? So they would go back to weirdness if the waystone gets deactivated. Activate any gardens, and then clear the active events area. We don't have any active events, and then we'd reveal a new event card. We didn't look at the event cards, but so this would reveal the Chapter 1, Part 1 event card, basically at this point. Which I'm not going to do because then, no point in spoiling things if I'm ending things here. And that's it. Then you just keep going over the day. So that's basically how the game works. You just explore around, do the story, fight things, negotiate with things, work on the chapter goals until you get to the end of the chapters. And that end of a chapter is usually where the kind of game ends, or your game session ends. And then there's a save sheet on the. You also get a save sheet with the game where you can record. Okay, so so this is what the save sheet looks like. So you can just mark basically everything down, what's on the map, what your tributes are, and everything. So that works okay. Okay, well, thanks for watching, and as always, I'll post a review soon on how I like this game. Now I own the original Tainted Grail, and spoiler, I really love the original Tainted Grail, so I'll also probably comparing this new version, the changes in this version with the old one. I'm not going to review the campaign because I want to put the review up. I haven't even finished the original campaign, so there's no point waiting until I'm done the campaign to review the game. I'm just going to do basically the review will be about the mechanics and how I feel about the game. Thanks for watching.